My name is Jamilah Pitts. I am the founder and CEO of Imprints. Imprints is a wellness organization that serves at the intersection of wellness and justice for women and girls of color. So I'm super excited to talk to you today about our She Leads program. So our She Leads program is a train the trainer style program that equips educators and youth serving professionals with the tools, resources, the capacity that they need to be able to adequately serve girls of color. I started the program based on my experience in education. So my background, I started teaching in public schools in Massachusetts, in New York. I worked for some time in the Dominican Republic, and I saw that there was a gap in the way that educators are trained. Mm-hmm. There usually is no focus whatsoever on girls and the ways that we develop educators and youth serving professionals. And certainly there is no training that focuses on how we uniquely meet the needs of girls of color. Mm-hmm. And so the program exists to fill that gap. We also offer a curriculum that is rooted in wellness, justice, and leadership, so that educators not only have the training and the resources, but they also have a curriculum to be able to implement in their schools or organizations. So I know that education is something that is really important to you. I know that you are a mother of women of color. And so I'd love for you to speak to just our community and why a training that focuses on giving educators and our youth serving professionals the tools that they need to uniquely serve our girls. Why do you think that that's important and necessary?
Absolutely. Well, one, thank you for all that you're doing in our community to make sure that our girls, especially girls of color, are able to really thrive, and that we have people who can meet them where they are and understand their unique needs that sometimes are the same as others, but a lot of times are different. And especially in this time in 2026, I think it's important that we have organizations that equip our leaders or those who are interacting with our youth with cultural awareness, but also, what our youth are dealing with from trauma or understanding their own identity. And, as our girls are growing, bodies changing, they're in different environments. Mental health is real. Social media plays a huge role. And so I think the work that you do is important. I think for us, well, I won't say us at the board just yet. I'll just say me. One, as a woman of color, raising twin girls in this environment, it's important for me to support the work because it's easy to be left behind. It's easy for our girls to feel like they don't have a voice, they don't have a place. What am I supposed to do? How do I express myself in healthy ways? How do I connect with people who can pour into me, especially when I might not have it at home? And I talk very transparently about my own upbringing with having a mother who struggled with addiction for the first 21 years of my life. And my mother absolutely loved me and cared about me, but her addiction kind of took priority. And I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have other women, teachers, Miss Freeman when I was in elementary school, or my great aunt who I donated my kidney to, who really poured into me and told me that I was seen, that I was valued, that I was loved, that I had a voice, and that there were people who were really rooting for me. And so when we think about children, especially, or girls who might come from complicated backgrounds or environments, we can really change the life course.
Absolutely.
And really set them up and put them on a path for prosperity when we have people in the community who can really connect with them in a special way.
Thank you for all of that. I think it's so important that people don't understand that vulnerability and transparency is a super, oh gosh, I'm getting so emotional. Oh. But just thank you so much for saying that. There are pieces of your story that I know, but there are pieces that you just shared that I wasn't aware of. And there's a lot of alignment between my own background growing up in Columbus, Ohio. I grew up on the South Side, which I don't know with just so much change and like development happening in the city. I often say to people that it was an economically poor environment. And I always say that what my mother was intentional about curating in our home, we were rich in other ways, but definitely poor. There was just a great deal of trauma. You spoke about just the importance of mental health, the importance of girls of color being seen. And in a similar way, a part of why I became a teacher, why I moved into the education space was because I did feel very seen in schools. I actually did not. So kindergarten until fourth grade, all of my teachers were Black women. And I think that had a really strong part of my development. I think what people don't understand is the K-12 educational system in the U.S., our teachers are still predominantly white and female. And so it's very easy for girls of color, and particularly Black girls, for our needs to go unmet. There's a great deal of adultification that happens in school. So this assumption that Black girls are older than they are. When they are acting out in a number of ways, the conversation is usually not on trauma or what is happening at home or the relationship between just someone's lived experience and how that shows up in their behavior. Teachers are not trained to recognize that. And so often the conversations that I hear around Black girls and girls of color is often around they have attitudes, they're problematic. There's so many connections between the ways that we see girls being treated in schools and it being directly connected to this angry Black woman stereotype, the over-sexualization and the hypersexualization of our bodies. So when we think about the intersections of our lived experiences as Black women, not only are we having to deal with systems of oppression, we're having to deal with racism, but we're also having to deal with living within a patriarchal society. And we are having to navigate that as women. I'm a huge proponent of therapy. I know that you talk a great deal about therapy and mental health, but we're not really having these conversations in schools. And so what tends to happen with our girls, not only are they coming into the school building or into organizations just carrying a great deal, but then they're also being met with a hostility and a lack of understanding of what they need. So when I think about this program, we do focus on leadership development, but it's holistic in nature. So we also think about what do our girls need to be mentally well, to be physically well, to be emotionally well, to care for their reproductive health, and how do you have those conversations without there being a great deal of shame? What does it look like for us to lean into financial literacy and culturally responsive practices for our girls? So from your seat, both as a Black woman, as a leader, as a parent, all the intersections that you sit at, how do you imagine our community would benefit if our educators and our youth serving professionals, now we have a number of organizations that are doing really incredible work for girls, and I want to name that, and for girls of color, but how do you imagine our community would benefit from a training that is designed to focus specifically on what our girls need?
Yeah, I think it would be impactful. I think it's absolutely needed, especially when we think about the dialogue and the conversations that are happening right now in the community about our youth and how they're showing up in different spaces or taking over different spaces. I think what we see is our youth are trying to find their identity and be in community with others. And I think it's important for us to have leaders or mentors or people trained to say, hey, these are appropriate ways to have an outlet, or, do you know that these opportunities are available for you? But even outside of what's available for you externally, internally, this might be what you are thinking or going through, or like, help me understand how you're feeling and how you see yourself showing up in spaces where you can be your full authentic self. So I think it would just be positive, especially with all the things that our youth are going through, to have those who are trained specifically to work with girls of color. I think nothing but positive.
What do you think is like the largest, when we think about the generational gap between women of color and girls of color, what do you think is the largest misunderstanding that we have as women that a training like this would support in kind of bridging or remitting that misunderstanding of our girls.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and I've had to like check my own self. Like I was saying earlier, my girls, Hope and Faith twins, turned 22 today. And in a lot of conversations that I have with them, I'm like, you don't have nothing to worry about. Like you got all of these things taken care of, or you have all of these assets and opportunities provided for you. That wasn't the case when I was growing up. And I think the disconnect is true. Like they have different resources, but they also have social media. They have a lot of different pressures that I didn't have necessarily when I was their age. And so I think we, as the older generation, approach the youth or the younger generation with our own experience leading the conversation versus getting into a place of being inquisitive and asking, what are you dealing with? What are you going through? How would you like for me to show up for you? What is it that you believe that you need versus us coming with preconceived notions and already a solution and not really being in a dialogue, but more in a monologue.
Yeah, I think that that's a really good point. One of the things I often see in youth serving spaces or in the educational space is, listen, as adults, we do come to the table with a great deal of wisdom, but I think one of the things that we forget is that young people are also here to teach us.
Absolutely.
One of the best ways that we can approach education and that we can approach youth is with this reciprocal understanding that, yes, I'm here to teach you something, but I also am learning a great deal from you. So one of the beautiful things about the program, to your point, is that it is very much centered on our girls. Each of the aspects of the training and the curriculum really encourage facilitators and educators to start with, how are we incorporating the voices and the choices of our girls? So it's not another educational experience or another youth serving experience that doesn't actually place them at the center. And so I'm really grateful and I'm really thankful that the county is supporting this initiative. The county is putting time and energy and investment into our young people and into our girls in this way. The next iteration of the program is this July, but we also have a fall cohort, a winter cohort, so that educators and youth serving professionals are able to participate in flexible ways. And so I just wanted to thank you for, again, sharing your vulnerability and your transparency. I think especially in this climate that we're in, it's very refreshing to have human beings who are leading other human beings from a very human-centered way.
Yeah.
So just thank you for all that you are and all of the ways that you show up. I know that it's not easy as a Black woman with all that you are carrying and all that you navigate. And so I just want to thank you for the grace and the ways that you show up and engage.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. And I think here at the county, one thing that you said is, centering our youth and centering their voices. One thing that I learned last year when I went to Italy with some of my team from the county, we went to a place called Reggio Emilia to really look at their early learning framework. Is one of the oldest, and across the globe, it has been adopted in many places. But the premise of Reggio Emilia is a community that came and wrapped their arms around the youth. Everything is focused and centered on the youth. To your point about that they can teach us.
Absolutely.
They are teachers. They're not individuals that need to be fixed, right? That if you provide them with tools and resources and allow them to explore and be in all of their wonder, that we can learn a great deal about them. And so we have brought that approach and that framework here to the work that we're doing, not just in the early learning space, but that's where it starts.
Absolutely.
Right? And taking that framework to all of the things that we do and how we engage our youth from cradle to career, that when we center them in their voices, that when we do learn, they are teachers, but also that they experience joy, that they experience a community that loves them,
Absolutely.
that prioritizes them, and that there's nothing that they lack, right? And so I love that your programming absolutely does that, because it will take, it's like a mind shift. It's definitely a culture shift. But the more that we do that, I like to see that as like a ripple effect. Other people will learn too. So that matters tremendously. But I think even for me as a woman of color leading and at the intersection of a lot of spaces, I'm able to do the work that I do because I get to be in community with people like you, and our group that travel together to retreat, and we continue to connect in different ways. It absolutely pours into me and lets me know that I'm not lost in a sea of work. And then I try to pour back into others the same way, because in one space I know that I'm seeing, that doesn't mean that it's in all spaces, and it's easy to blend into the wall, but we always have to pour into each other, no matter if we're a youth serving organization or interacting with adults. We all need to feel seen and valued and met where we are.
Yes.
I think one thing I do want to say about the county, and less about me, but more about just the priorities that we have at the county in serving our youth. I know that during this time, like, budgets are tight for our nonprofits, but for funders, because the need is so great. But you have a board of commissioners that is committed to providing our youth with all kinds of opportunities, whether it's paid jobs for the summer, or access to STEAM programs, or mentorship programs, programs where they get to just be in wonder. We have not cut our funding there because we know that this is a critical time. Parents are dealing with a lot. Our educators especially are dealing with a lot, and they're trying to meet our youth where they are, with our educators living their own lives, right? So we also invest in our educators as far as mental health and their own well-being. So we have a board of commissioners. I'm so blessed to work with two individuals that understand that our neighbors are dealing with a lot and complex and nuanced issues. And, government isn't the end all be all for everything, but where we can make a difference, we absolutely try. And so our support for your work is one avenue that we're able to pour in. We know that it'll impact our youth, but it will have a tremendous impact for the educators and those leading those the spaces and conversations. So you have our commitment to continuing to support this work.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will say, again, just immense gratitude to the county. I do understand and recognize, I speak to a number of other Black women who are founders and leaders of organizations about how difficult it is to navigate this climate, especially those of us who are doing work that centers the community, that centers our youth, that still have a focus on equity and justice when we consider just everything that is happening in the world. But one of the beautiful things about the format of this program is we are pouring directly into educators, a number of educators at a time. Even just one educator can serve hundreds of students. And so that ripple effect that you're talking about is incredibly important. And I'm so grateful to the county for continuing the investment in programs like this.
Absolutely. And even though we say programs, at the end of the day, we're investing in people.
Absolutely.
Again, making sure that everyone has the same opportunities to thrive and not just survive. So
yes. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So powerful. Thank you.